Right guys, back with another video. So today I will show you how to install Windows XP or Server 2003 using the EVGA Z390 Dark, which you guys saw me using for numerous overclocking top scores back in early December 2018, and also in Windows XP mainly for W Prime and PyFast benchmark tests. And since then you guys have really been asking for me to make an XP installation video, so this is something you have been really waiting for. Just recently the official XP BIOS was released to the retail board, and it is available for download at the EVGA forums, along with all the necessary drivers to get XP to work, such as AHCI driver, USB driver, and also the LAN driver. So today I will show you step by step how to install Windows XP with this board using an optical drive. It is possible to install Windows XP both from a DVD or a USB stick, but since that the newest platforms don't have native USB support anymore, since the launch of original Skylake for older operating systems than Windows 8, it is much easier to install an old operating system like this from a DVD than from a USB stick. I will make a separate installation guide video from a USB later, but today we will be using a DVD. So the hard part about the overall process is that the newest chipsets don't have IDE compatibility mode anymore on the chipset based SATA ports, and there is no AHCI driver anymore for Windows XP for the chipset based SATA ports. So from now on we have to rely on third-party storage controllers, mainly the Asmedia SATA controller, which is present on this motherboard. There is still an AHCI driver for Asmedia based SATA ports, and also some boards that have Asmedia SATA ports present on the board can also run IDE compatibility mode on those particular SATA ports. For example, the ASRock Z170M OC formula. So with such board you don't even have to worry about the AHCI driver. So Asmedia ports just have much better overall compatibility with older operating systems than the Intel SATA ports. So without further ado, let's get this guide video started. So the first thing we've got to do is to update the motherboard BIOS for the motherboard to support Windows XP. We just have to go to the BIOS update feature in the extras section and find the correct file to update the BIOS. So the correct one is the one that ends with 092.bin. That's the correct BIOS version that supports Windows XP for the retail version of the Z390 Dark. We can see the BIOS is dated for 6th of March 2019, so that's the correct version, so 0.092. We'll just let the BIOS update feature go through, and then once it's completed we'll just restart the system, and then we will just go and look how we get the XP installation image ready for installation. Right then, now that the BIOS has been flashed to the correct version, we can get on with making all the necessary preparations for the XP installation media so that we can install it. With the now released XP BIOS, there are also some nice baseline overclocking profiles added to the BIOS, which you can use. They are made by me and also Kimpin, so you can find a very baseline CPU and memory overclocking profile for daily use, a general liquid nitrogen baseline profile with 6 GHz overclock on the CPU and 12-11-11 timings for the memory for 4133 plus speeds with correct RTL of 49, 50, 66 and so on. And then there are also two profiles for A2 PCB Samsung B-die kits, mainly for tests like Geekbench or XTU. So these are 4800 plus speeds with 14, 13, 13 timings. You can use these if you find them comfortable to use. They are just there for the user. So yeah, now we can just go to the boot section and select boot mode, select to legacy. We will need this later when we install XP, and we will make all the preparations in Windows 7. Alright, so what we have to do to be able to install Windows XP on the Z390 Dark is that we have to integrate the Asmedia AHCI drivers to the installation media before we try to install the actual operating system from the DVD or the USB stick, whatever. So we can do this with the famous program called Nlite. It's very handy and very easy to use software for removing any unnecessary parts of Windows XP. This also works for Windows Server 2003, as Windows Server 2003 is pretty much the same operating system as Windows XP. So we can use Nlite to integrate any drivers we want to the XP installation media. But before that, I want to let you look at the actual installation folder itself. So I have unpacked the original ISO file to desktop to a folder. You can already maybe notice that this installation folder looks kind of empty, as I have used this particular installation before. It's very stripped down version of Windows XP. So if you look at the EVGA guide thread at EVGA forum, you will see that there are a few things listed. There's the AHCI driver for the Asmedia ports, there's the USB driver for the Asmedia USB port at the rear I/O, the LAN driver, and also a single file called usbd.sys. The annoying part with some Windows XP installs for this purpose is that this particular file might sometimes be missing from the drivers folder in the system32 part of the C drive or C partition. If this particular file is missing, some of the USB devices will not work even if you have installed the actual USB driver. For example, any USB storage devices, just like USB sticks. So this has to be in the drivers folder. You can get around this problem even prior to making the actual installation ISO by going to the i386 folder in the actual installation media folder and scroll down and see, does the installation media have this particular drive in the files. So here I can find it. I can find a file called usbd.sy_. So this is the correct file. So if you don't have it, so it's missing, then you should just copy paste the usbd.sys from wherever you are storing it and paste it to the i386 folder in the installation media folder, and rename the file in capital letters to usbd.sy_, just like all the other system files are named as sy_, not sys or .sys. So do this before you go any further with Nlite. So once we've done that, we can just go to the actual Nlite software, press next. Then we will browse and find the location of the XP installation folder, which we just looked at. Then it will bring up the basic information of the operating system that is located in the target destination. So its product name is Windows XP Professional, again, this works for Server 2003 as well. Language is English, United States. Service Pack 4. Do not mind about the Service Pack 4. There was never such thing released for Windows XP officially. This is a custom, unofficial update pack made by some private user. It's a combination of the last official updates to Windows XP, which one can download from the internet. And you can also notice that the size of this installation media is only 143 megabytes, so it's very tiny compared to the size of the retail Windows XP. So the retail Windows XP is around 600-700 megabytes, so this is extremely small, stripped down version of Windows XP, but it doesn't really matter for this purpose. We can then just press next and then again next, and here you want to select drivers and bootable ISO. So we want to integrate our drivers to the installation media, and then we want to create an ISO file based on those changes. Then we will press next, and here in the drivers part we will put insert multiple driver folder. Then we will first integrate the AHCI drivers, so we will find a folder called ASM106X. The end part is 0001. That's our version. We will select this folder. We will not select any of the subfolders. We will just press OK. We will select the ones that end in I386, as there is both 32-bit and 64-bit version of this particular driver. We will then press OK. Back then, 32-bit version of Windows XP was much more common than the 64-bit version. 64-bit version was kind of buggy, it wasn't so popular, although it could be more compatible nowadays with newer hardware, as 64-bit version can run much higher memory capacities and so on. For overclocking purposes, the only real benchmark that really can run faster in 64-bit version is pretty much 3D Mark 2001 from the old tests. All the other like old 2D tests, as well as some of the 3D tests, run better in 32-bit version, like SuperPi 1M and 32M, PiFast, W Prime, and like 3D Mark 03, 05, 06, and AcroMark with some old graphics cards, like for example GTX 285 or older. So here we will just select text mode driver as mode, and we will select Asmedia 106 SATA controller 32-bit. As we are installing a 32-bit version of Windows XP, we'll press OK. Now we see that they are integrated in the drivers. Then we will press insert again, multiple driver folder. We will find the Asmedia USB port folder. It's called ASM USB host 1.16.55.1. We will select the driver subfolder from that. Then we will press OK. And we can see that we have one driver available for selection. We will press that and then we will press OK. Now we have three things listed in the drivers, and now we can press next. We will press yes so it can start the process. Installation size grew by 1.33 megabytes, so almost nothing at all. We will press next. Now we will create ISO file based on these changes, so we will select create image as mode. We will give the ISO file a label name, so here we have EVGA Z390 XP. We will leave these two at default. Then we will press make ISO. I will put it on desktop and I will name it EVGA Z390 XP. It will create an ISO file based on our changes and our installation folder. We will press next and finish. Now we are done with Nlite. Then, as we will be doing the installation via DVD, we will open image burn, as we want to we want to burn that ISO file to an empty DVD which we just created. We will select write image file to disk. We will press this small folder icon, browse for a file. We will then select our ISO file which we just created, EVGA Z390 XP, and open. Our DVD drive is selected in the destination, and I recommend you have the verify button tabbed, so it will recycle the whole DVD once and make sure that everything has been burnt correctly. And we will then just press the big right button. We will let the burning process complete. Once it has completed, we will go to BIOS again. Then we will start doing the actual Windows operating system installation process. You can also integrate the LAN drivers the same way through Nlite, or you can just bring them to the operating system later once it has been installed via or in a USB stick. Also, I recommend that you have the Elite XP compatible overclocking software ready, so you can use that in Windows XP for overclocking. But yeah, we will just let this complete now, and then we will get back once it has been completed. So there's not much you have to do to the actual rig itself to install Windows XP. You just have to plug in the actual hard drive as well as the optical drive to these top two SATA ports here. These top two SATA ports are the third-party Asmedia SATA ports, so we will not be using the actual Intel Z390 based ones that are the bottom 6 here. I'm also using a PS2 mouse and keyboard with a Y cable, as these have much better compatibility in older operating systems, and I don't have to worry about them not being recognized. And then just a simple VGA to display the monitor signal. So that's pretty much it. So once the DVD has been set up, there's nothing really else important that much in the BIOS. You might want to enable Windows 7 installation if you really have to use USB mouse and keyboard, although this has great negative side effect, like how I already explained in my Z390 Dark overview video. So for example, during a test like SuperPi 32M or 3D Mark, if you start to move your mouse when this option is enabled, it will lower your performance dramatically. So it's much easier to use PS2 mouse and keyboard, just like I am in this example. Then I can just leave this whole option disabled. Then we just have to put the CD or DVD drive as boot option 1 instead of the actual hard drive, and then we can just press F10 and restart the system. It will now ask to press any key to boot from the CD. It will go through all the major components for the actual installation process. So once you get to this screen, what I usually do when I do like install XP for overclocking purposes is that I have split the 120GB SSD in 2 parts. So the operating system will be installed to the C partition, and I have all the necessary files, programs, screenshots and so on the partition D. For example, the Asmedia USB driver and the usbd.sys file, and all the necessary files are good to be on the D partition, so you can always reinstall the C partition without losing anything important. So if you are doing like me, you can just split the drive in 2 like this and press enter when the C partition is highlighted, and then do a full format using NTFS file system, not quick format, as it will not fully remove everything. Do a full format and press F, and it will do the whole process. It will now install the operating system from the DVD, and we can get on when we have to do the next changes. So once you get to this step, you only have to name the computer. So we can type in EVGA Z390 XP. There's nothing else really. The whole installation process is actually quite fast if you have a stripped down installation video like I have here in this example. And that is pretty much it. We will now land on the desktop of Windows XP on a modern Z390 system. So if we open system part in control panel, we can read Microsoft Windows XP Professional version 2014. And if we open CPU Z from my D partition, yeah, 9900K, all cores and threads are being read correctly. EVGA Z390 Dark, 0.92 bars, and as well as the memory. So now we can check the device manager in a computer management and see if the Asmedia USB driver has been installed correctly when we integrated it in the start with Nlite. And we can read that there's an Asmedia USB 3.1 extensible host controller listed under the universal serial bus controllers in device manager. And we can also check the Windows folder and system32 drivers and check if there's the usbd.sys. So yeah, we can find the correct file is in the drivers folder. So if this one is missing, most of the USB storage devices, like USB sticks, will not function correctly. So it's wise to have this as well as all the necessary drivers in a secondary partition, just like I did. So I have all these important things in my D partition for overclocking purposes. So I only have to erase the C partition when I install a new operating system for different hardware. So if we now take my USB stick and plug it to the Asmedia USB 3.1 port and the rear I/O, we can see that the new device has been recognized at the bottom right corner of the screen. And if we open my computer, we can find a Kingston device listed in my computer next to the DVD drive. And when we open it, we can read all the files that are inside the USB stick. So now we can take the Elite Basic software that is also compatible for Windows XP. I will also take the CPU Z from D partition. So this particular Elite software has compatibility in Windows XP. It doesn't require the Windows management instrumentation process running in the background in order to work, as some of the old and very stripped down versions of Windows XP do not have that service anymore available in the operating system. So we had to work around a version of Elite that works without it. So this is an unofficial stripped down version of Elite. I will have a download link down in the description below where you can download this. So in overclocking tab, this can overclock the base clock, the core multiplier, as well as the cache multiplier. And in voltages tab, it can only change the actual vCore as well as the memory voltage. So now if we try to change the CPU clock speed with this Elite, we can try to increase the core multiplier from 47 to 48. And now we can read in CPU Z that the clock speed has changed from 47 to 4800. And if we try to put it back to 4.7, it does it just fine. So yeah, it works correctly. So this is definitely ready for overclocking. So that is pretty much it. For whatever reason you want to install Windows XP in 2019, you can definitely do it with these simple steps I just showed you. The installation process is definitely easier via DVD than via USB, but I will do a separate installation guide for USB later. If you don't have an optical drive laying around, then the only solution is to install via USB, but it's definitely easier using a DVD. If you like this video, you guys have been asking for this multiple times, that I should make a guide video where I install Windows XP on the Z390 Dark. Here it is. So please give thumbs up for my video and some nice comment that EVGA still offers Windows XP support even with their highest end flagship mainstream motherboard. And share the video so that other people can also find it, and subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching, and see you next time.